Previously on the Beam Chronicles.
Shoot the girl.
Then I saw Charlie. She was holding a smoking Guillermo over the little girl's limp body.
What's your brother's name?
Trevor Long.
This guy was dead man walking like 24 hours ago.
Any idea what caused that change?
Not a clue.
I'm gonna get us out of this. I'm gonna find a way to divorce our family from Beam.
JT, I wanted brain and jar. One stipulation, closed ecological system.
You're gonna stop being such a sarcastic, annoying cunt, and you're going to become the obedient little whore deep down inside of you. Yeah! You shot me!
Yes, but I told you I was going to. Two monsters the caliber of Kowarski that Prophet thought too dangerous for all the gusto and impenetrability of Row 1. Would he tell me about the second Kowarski? Or... oh, fuck. Would he tell me about the third?
These are the Beam Chronicles, with your host, MJ Dooney. Book 2, Compromise, Chapter 9, Charlie Shayde.
I'd always had a bizarre knack for blocking things out of my mind that I didn't want to think about. And 2 years ago, the watershed event that left everyone with a bad taste in their mouth was the Kowarski bust. Suppressing that day was simple for me, almost automatic, not only because I'd done it for so long, but because of all my memories, it was the one I wished I could delete the most. That was my worst day of life. Notice, not the worst day of my life. It wasn't the day in which the highest degree of bad things happened to me, which makes an entirely different statement. I might add that I had experienced worse days than that one, but the Kowarski bust was the day when I personally reached my lowest. That Charlie, on that day, was the worst one I had ever been, on any day before or since. What I did to Sydney's sister... Anyway, there's a reason I was so ready to block it out. But today I was thinking about it. Today I couldn't stop. Because I was thinking about how it was the first time I'd ever seen Howie sacrifice anything. And what he sacrificed was his most prized possession. On that day, Howie shattered his own illusion just to make sure Kowarski recognized his place. Not for me. I had long before then seen his true colors, but for Carraway and Lane Rector, Madman Mathis, Vasquez, Kelsbargs, hell, it may have even been the final straw for Murphy. Every equalizer on that bust, all the best ones, the Squad 2 veterans, were disillusioned on that day, when he would have fired through Maria to shoot a child just to demonstrate to Kowarski who was in charge. Before then, they saw Prophet as an occasionally misguided man with an admittedly drastic solution to an unearthly fearful problem, driven by the light of a higher power. After the curtain was pulled back, and the ambitious tyrant operating all the levers and knobs was revealed, the cackling devil puppet master, manipulating us all into our individual imprisonments, Howie sacrificed his own precious disguise just to make sure that he had Kowarski under his thumb. That's how big of a threat Prophet saw him as. Now I knew there were two more monsters in the world that Howie viewed on par with Dr. K. What lengths would he go to keep them under control, and who were they? Beyond the curiosity, all I could feel about it was true fear. It had been so long. The last time I got hit with anything was Skelton's foot during Fly Foon. I'd almost forgotten what pain felt like. And as I tumbled from my perch in the rafters, all that fear I was distracted with thinking about that sub-basement was instantly redirected into blinding, furious rage. Pure instinct took over as I sixed the trajectory of the thing that had hit me in the eye, followed it down to the sucker it came from, and started pummeling him in strategic locations with a blazing rapidity only I was capable of. All the dirtiest places to land a blow. Diaphragm, jaw, groin, right kidney, left kidney, and... oh, shit. It was Jackson. Holy shit, JT, holy shit. I screeched my flurry to a halt, and he crumbled, dazed and gasping toward the ground. I grouped behind him, dropped beneath him to my knees, and broke his fall, cradling his head as the fuzziness of my fury began to clear, and I remembered where I was, in the arena, skirmishing. Holy shit. Jackson, look at me. You okay? I frantically interrogated him, grabbing the side of his face. His eyes rolled around in their sockets when I brushed his hair off his forehead. Thank God I stopped when I did, only a few punches in. Thank God he deflected most of them into glancing blows instead of direct strikes. With the broad Jackson field he tended to keep around his body for defensive purposes. I could six that I hadn't caused any serious internal injury, but he seemed completely out of it. Buddy, JT, please talk to me.
What happened?
Sydney strode over to me as I held him on the floor.
I must have blinked. I missed the entire thing.
Sid, I was distracted. I wasn't focused and something hit me. I just started flurrying him like on instinct.
Sydney.
Jackson laboriously groaned, extending a finger to beckon him closer.
Sid.
I am here, brother.
He fell to his knees urgently beside us.
What is it? What do you wish to tell me?
He looked back at me, softly brushing the locks out of my face and stroking my cheek, faintly smiling. And for that shadow of a moment, when I thought I might have somehow killed him, I leaned in just slightly to kiss him on the mouth. Some sort of true love fairy tale magic to bring him back to life. I don't fucking know. I didn't even care that Sydney would see it. But then, he cleared his throat, found his voice after the wind I'd knocked out of him came back in.
I hit her. I actually hit Charlie.
Huh? I gasped, halfway to his face.
Best day ever.
You fucking ass.
Ow.
And I stood up, dropping his head to bounce off the arena floor. I thought I actually hurt you.
You did.
He groaned, massaging his midsection, which sustained the bulk of the damage.
But only because I totally hit you first.
He spun into a seated position, legs extended in front of him, flexed at the knees as he supported his weight on his hands behind, breathing heavily with his mouth while grimacing.
Yeah, that's gonna be tender in the morning.
I hope it's tender for the next week, you dickhead. When I ask you if you're okay, you tell me you're okay. Then you can start bragging about hitting me literally once in 3 years worth of fighting. Honestly, I thought I killed you.
You look in rough shape yourself, my dear.
Sydney winced, standing up and gently touching the side of my eye with his knuckles.
It will be quite the shiner, I think.
Not that I wasn't concerned for JT's life, I started feeling the pulsating pain in my own eye as it started to swell up. I scowled at him, gesturing at my injury to instill some sort of guilt. Why'd you even throw that at me, you dildo?
Because we're skirmishing. Jesus, what am I supposed to do? Miss on purpose?
Fucking yes?
I didn't think I'd actually hit you. I've never hit you. You were just sitting up in the rafters, not moving. I thought you were planning some kind of sneak attack.
So you chucked something at my face. Do you know how many times in these things I could have roasted you, but I pulled back because, I don't know, I actually like you and I don't want to hurt you? How about a little damn restraint in the name of practice and or fondness?
Damn it.
So easily guilted.
Okay, you're right. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry.
He pleaded with me while stumbling to get up to his feet, flinching through the pain.
Honestly, Charlie, I just didn't think I could hit you with it, you know? I only tossed it up there to move your feet a little. You dodge projectiles like that without thinking all the time, but I shouldn't be so careless, not with you, of all people. It won't happen again, I promise.
Jackson tenderly touched my arm, met my eye to ensure his sincerity, and we blinked at each other for entirely too long. Were it anyone else, anyone just slightly more worldly and less bizarre than Sydney in the room, the display would have been super suspiciously tense, sexually speaking. Good lord, the eye-teeking was insatiably fierce. I almost forgot my head and kissed him. Again, which is entirely typical considering a second ago we were beating the shit out of each other. Instead, I just mumbled, "Damn right it won't happen again. Once in a lifetime shot, JT."
I think you definitely got the better of me.
Yeah, probably. I'm sorry too. I lightly patted him on the stomach.
Ow.
We made our way over to the bench on the wall of the arena and sat next to each other, cooling down, regathering ourselves, while Sydney practiced his punching combos on a hanging bag.
You know, I always wondered if you could actually, turn off the sensation of pain. But with your brain all elsewhere, Phil could probably do it if we knew where it was. Then these once-in-a-lifetime situations would end a little less violently, for both of us.
I smiled. Nah, I don't want it turned off. And nobody can touch my brain, remember? Closed doors, self-sustaining ecosystem type deal. The only thing I was assured of, Kavorsky himself demonstrated nobody can get in. Otherwise, Prophet would be poking his fingers into lobes to see what happened, distorting all my emotions and shit. It was going to become very important to me very soon that Jackson trusted all of my emotions, and that they were entirely my own if I ever got around to telling him about my recent epiphany on how I felt about him, but compartmentalizing that.
This is true.
Sydney piped in after a grunting, jumping kick to finish his combo.
My father was very insistent on that detail, no external interference of brain chemistry to prevent accidental psychosis. I saw it myself before we returned the brain. Actually, in a sense, that was the day we met, Charlie.
He grinned at me. I rolled my eyes and smirked.
How did I hit you anyway?
JT asked, still rubbing his tender belly in circles. I was just distracted. Actually, that reminds me of something I wanted to talk to you guys about. And I explained to them my adventures in the dungeon earlier that day. I told them briefly about Trevor Long and Cranston's indecisiveness with handling him, but mostly I focused on the part behind Kevorski's door, the dungeon of the dungeons, only accessible by Howie, which mysteriously distorted my otherwise crystal clear sixth sense, featuring 3 pulses, 2 unknowns.
Intriguing.
Sydney frowned.
I have seen that door many hundreds of times without considering the potential for anything else behind it beyond what is clearly written upon it. It is most unsettling if what you say is true.
It's true, Big Purple. I sixed it myself.
But do we trust it?
Jackson protested.
The sixing that far in a room you've never seen or been to with some supernatural force shutting you out? I mean, is this reliable info?
I hadn't even told him that. My second stab at getting a good 6 around failed miserably, but I wasn't going to show any lack of confidence when he was going to be this negative. Of course it's reliable, butthole. Yeah, I had to push it a little bit, but I know what I sixed, and Dale wouldn't shut up or else I could have gotten a better look around. For all I know, there were more. Whatever, though, the real question is, what are we gonna do about it?
Charlie...
Jackson sighed, palming his forehead. Can you open that door, Sid? I ignored JT's melodramatic exasperation.
There are few doors I cannot open. In the worst-case scenario, I could K-pack a passage, but perhaps this is not the best idea.
Thank you,
Jackson proclaimed to the heavens.
Surely Howie would have some security system on a door he has so intensely restricted access to. Perhaps it would be best to enter this sub-basement without actually opening it.
Never mind,
Jackson proclaimed to the heavens. You mean group inside? I hopped to my feet and paced over to Sid, stroking my chin. I can't regroup without sixing, though, so I'd have to just group through the door and walk the rest of the way. Take a look around while you stand guard?
Yes, we should find a way to communicate before we do this. The comms would be even more useless yet another mile under the ground. Perhaps my brother could...
Hey, guys!
Jackson interrupted our productive strategy session from his withdrawn position still on the bench.
Maybe we should, I don't know, not do anything.
Well, sure. I mean, that's a thought, an obviously terrible one, but thanks for contributing, JT.
Is it really so obviously terrible? Howard Prophet has one locked door in an entire building full of the most dangerous and powerful people and objects in the world. Just one.
He extended a single finger and obnoxiously rotated it from me to Sydney and back for hammy emphasis.
If you can't respect that single restriction, I don't...
It's far from his only restriction, Jackson. I interrupted to scoff at his ridiculous oversimplification. Furthermore, I don't respect a damn thing about Howard Prophet.
Then at least have a bit of common sense to fear him, Charlie.
Psh, he doesn't even live here anymore. What's he gonna do to me besides? Right, literal eternal torture. I accidentally articulated the last part.
Exactly, it's Prophet. Anything if he wanted to. Shut you off? Kill you maybe? Does it matter? Is any of it worth it just because you're curious who's sitting in the basement playing canasta with Kevorski?
He loves canasta. How did you know?
Sydney wondered aloud. But you don't even know it's Kevorski. I attempted to boil up his curiosity. We just always assumed it was because the name on the door, but now it could be anybody. 3 heartbeats. What if it's us? What if he cloned us and he's getting ready to kill us and replace us? Sydney was frantically stunned, Jackson completely unamused. If he's gonna replace me with a clone anyway, I got nothing to lose.
Our clones could be playing canasta, and I do not even know how to play.
Provocative, Charlie. Scary theory, but I could just as easily construct an innocuous one. What if it is Kevorski? The second heartbeat was Howie visiting him, and the third one was some businessman or politician striking up a deal. You really want to jump down there and piss off Howie over potentially nothing? Besides, you said Dale was talking and distracting you.
Yeah, exactly. There could have been more than 3 people down there.
But what if, while you were sixing a room a mile away from you that you didn't even think existed through a field of 6 distortion you don't even understand, and somebody was distracting you, you accidentally read 2 heartbeats as 3? Or maybe it was just 1. Then it's just Kevorski in a hole, and you're freaking out over architecture.
He had a point. I remembered how skippy and jumpy my schematic was, how hard it was to keep things in focus. It was possible that I was just rushing and sixed it wrong. It was possible this space didn't exist at all, but it also pissed me off that he assumed my incompetence. And also, more than that, it pissed me off that once again he was demonstrating his lack of passion, preferring to stay wrapped up in his safe and corrupt cocoon over taking any action.
Jackson may have a point here, Charlie.
Sydney reservedly admitted.
My curiosity is as well piqued by this peculiar discovery, but perhaps the potential rewards for this do not outweigh the assured consequences if Howie is so keen to keep everyone from that room. I shudder to think what he would do if he caught us in there.
But he won't catch us. I'm too fast for him to see. It'll be like I wasn't even there.
You literally just admitted that you can't group without sixing. If it's blocked while we're down there and then Howie shows up,
God damn it, you two! I punched the suspended bag Sydney was practicing on hard enough for the boom to punctuate my sentence. Aren't you sick of all the mysteries and the secrets and the lies? Howie's forecast, Jackson's containment method, the failsafe. We don't have shitty ideas about an explanation for any of it, or even where to start looking. Now, there are 3 strange, potentially dangerous people strolling around downstairs, and you two are too afraid to get the one answer we actually know how to get? What if my brain is down there? What if those 3 people, or even just the 2 that aren't Kowarski, what if they're strong enough to stand up to Prophet and that's why he's keeping them so locked down? What if they could help us escape? You're just afraid.
I'm not afraid, Charlie.
You are afraid. You promised me 2 years ago that you would get us out of here, Jackson. That day on the roof, when I drank your nasty beer, you promised me you'd find a way out. Did you forget? Because I didn't.
I remember that day very well.
What if this is it? What if this is our way out? This might be it. Now you're afraid just to take a look?
I am not afraid.
He leapt to his feet.
I just don't care.
Oh, wow, that's just fucking perfect. Do you care about anything anymore, Jackson?
Yes.
And he grabbed my shoulders, stared into my eyes as his subconscious stroking reached a level of warmth and soothing and power so high my knees got weak and my voice failed me.
Yes, I do care about something still. I just care about it so much. The rest of it does not matter. And when, not if, when I get us out of here, it's not gonna be by some storm the castle rescue mission that Howie could possibly confront and thwart. It will be it. Not it might be it, it will be. Because I'm going to be absolutely sure that all the people I need make it through to the other side of the fire or I'm not moving an inch.
I attempted to retort, but through the insane feeling of comfort he was giving me, that manipulative bastard, it was somewhat difficult. I didn't want to grant him that power over me, even if I was in love with him, even if that's basically all love was in the first place. That sounds a lot like being afraid.
Okay, maybe you're right, but if it is, I'm not the one I'm afraid for.
At that point, before I could say another word, the door to the arena flung open. Which was weird. There wasn't restricted access to this room or anything, but most people with brains realized that walking in here during an Ava skirmish probably meant you'd be walking out with some sort of trauma. As it turned out, the gentleman entering the arena at that moment was both brainless and injured anyway, and I laughed out loud when he finally rolled his way into eyesight to his extreme discontent. Hey, Pete, I smirked. Nice wheels.
You've got a lot of nerve making fun of me, Missy.
I did have a lot of nerve, but I wasn't actually using much of it to tease Peter Cranston.
How much longer must you be in the chair, Peter?
Sydney asked politely, with blatant ambivalence to the actual answer.
Well, medical says I'll be back on my feet in a week. They do work a miracle from time to time in that department. The treatment stung something fierce, though. Almost as bad as when I got shot in the first place.
Something about Peter was just slightly different. More private and reserved, quieter. Not as peppy. Cautious. Maybe I'd shot the pep out of him.
You should not be in here. We are skirmishing. It would be quite dangerous.
I'll be brief. I just need a minute to speak with Mr. Teak.
He spat Jackson's name, like the very act of articulating it filled him with disgust. I glanced over to JT for some indication if he knew what was up, and clearly judging by the smug look on his face, he did.
Sure. What's up, Tenderfoot?
Can we please discuss this in private?
Peter hissed, frustratedly.
No, we'll do it here.
He sighed, clapping his hands together and strangling some invisible person.
Fine, you're the star, after all. We had a deal, Jackson. I put in the order yesterday, my part's all over. Except the simple matter of physically relocating him.
Yeah, I kind of wanted him to be free though, Pete.
You know damn well that was out of the question. 2 years is standard, minimum security. Heck, I even gave him extended visitation rights pending approval from the dungeon, just as an act of good faith to you. Now I have quietly, without fuss, adhered to all of your demands. It's time for you to uphold your end of the bargain.
Were they talking about Trevor Long? Had to be. It made sense. I couldn't come up with a convincing reason for Prophet or Cranston to decide to let him off the hook. Was it Jackson that somehow motivated Peter to move him out of row 1, disconnect him from the Hodge murder, and save his life? I shot JT a look, this excited befuddlement that he in turn snickered at, winking and smiling contently. You magnificent bastard, what the hell did you do?
My end is pretty much held up, Pete.
Oh, I think not. Jackson, I strongly think you still have some bit of work yet to do.
Nobody's seen the video. If you took care of my guy the way you said you did, then people will continue to not see it.
You said you'd hand it over. You said I could have it if
What is this, like the 60s? It's digital, you dingus. You can't destroy it. Todd emailed it to me. I have backups of backups. It's even on my phone. You think I'm just going to delete all of them because you did this one single favor for me? Nah. I wouldn't give up a steak this juicy. Not that easily, Cranston.
Well, then I'll move him back. I'll put Trevor Long back on death row this instant if you don't get rid of it.
Fine, then I'll leak it to the press, and Howie will fire you before anyone touches lawn. One less obnoxious prick sticking into my neck.
You think you're real slick, don't you, Bucko? But you're way overplaying your hand here. It's not that incriminating of a video. People use that sort of language all the time in show business. It's not that big of a deal.
People don't use that kind of language when referring to the beloved Charlie Shayde, and you damn well know it. You think if the masses see that video, heads won't roll for it? We're titans. You should know that. You made us, Peter. Anyone who goes against us is scum. That's just how public perception works these days. Prophet's not gonna stand by you, an insignificant nobody like you, against Charlie and Sid and me when the world is screaming for you to get shit canned. That's just bad business. He knows that. You sure as hell know that. You're not that big of a deal that he would accept the negative publicity in exchange for keeping you on board.
You're wrong. Prophet can't fire me. Maybe he can replace me. Fine. But if he fires me, I'll spill my guts. I've got dirt on this organization that'll tear it to the foundations.
And hey, I'm not entirely opposed to witnessing that, but consider the things that Howie's done in the past to people who piss him off and declare themselves his enemy. Hodge was alive for a few months after he spoke up. How long do you think he'll let you live if you start airing his dirty laundry?
My God.
Peter chuckled, shaking his head.
You are really something else. You know that? You're pretty good. I'll admit it. You picked up the game real quick, didn't you?
Jackson shrugged.
I learned from the best.
Cranston let loose all of the air in his lungs, abruptly adjusted his tone to a gentle, meek pleading. I relished it.
Jackson, listen, okay? Please listen to me for a second. You're right. All right, my nuts are viced here. If that video gets out, I mean, Prophet will sack me before it even hits, then probably kill me just to make sure nothing else comes of it. So I admit, you have the strategic high ground, and I appeal to your basic human decency to take the moral high ground, too.
JT and I snorted in unison, but Cranston continued his plea.
We can't have a functional business relationship when one of us is blackmailing the other, buddy. We just can't. It doesn't work.
Then get used to a dysfunctional one, Cranston, or try quitting and see what Prophet has in store for you when you do.
Peter exhaled loudly in defeat, wiping his mouth and shaking his head.
This isn't over.
Probably not.
Jackson leaned onto the arms of Peter's wheelchair, getting right up in his face.
But for now, you keep doing the things we discussed. I'll keep not utilizing the oodles of press contacts that you correctly instructed me were so vital to have. Goodbye, Peter.
He snarled, mumbled some obscenities under his breath, and rolled out of the arena, weaker and more powerless than he'd ever been before, if that was even possible. JT, I said calmly once the door swung shut. Sydney and I would like for you to tell us the beautiful story of what the hell you did to get Cranston so agonizingly butt-fucked in explicit, glorious detail. He laughed, sheepishly stuffing his hands in his pockets as he explained.
Well, Todd's an old friend, the director on your commercial set. I did another ad for him before and we bonded a little, plus my involvement kind of launched his career and he hates Peter. So when Sydney and I went to fill in for you, I asked him if he saw what happened between the two of you. And apparently one camera was rolling and caught the whole thing on tape. I asked him as a friend to keep it quiet and to instruct the crew to do the same, but they'd already signed affidavits that they wouldn't talk. That's when I realized how badly Cranston wanted to bury it, so I got it, and I showed it to him, and I reminded him of all the media people he'd personally pissed off over the last 2 years. Made some suggestions about how he should continue handling business with you guys, and requested a bit of leniency for Trevor Long. I just, figured I'd secure some little more victories.
And the knowing, sideways glance he shot me made me want to jump his bones right there. Luckily, or unluckily maybe, Sydney stepped between us before I could.
Brilliant scheme, brother.
Sydney tousled his hair.
Quite clever. It will be nice to have some way to influence Peter without him in turn involving Howie.
Right. And I was just gonna leak it myself to get rid of him, but I figure there's a million Peter Cranstons out there who wouldn't make his same mistake. I might as well milk it for a while. The devil you know, right?
You really are a spectacular son of a bitch. Do you know that? I threw myself around his neck and kissed his cheek, too amped to gauge how passionate it could be perceived. Thank you, Jackson. I know Trevor was my thing. I know you did it all for me.
Of course, Charlie.
He kissed the side of my head, eye-teeking me like he hadn't seen me in days, hugging me so tight.
All for you. Everything. That's what I've been trying to tell you, but hey, just one little thing to ask in return.
Yeah, JT, name it. He contritely smirked.
Stay out of the sub-basement?
It was impossible in that moment to say no to him, but hell, it was pretty hard for me to do that in any moment now.
Thank you for listening to The Beam Chronicles, a fiction podcast written and produced by me, MJ Dooney. I hope you've enjoyed Book 2 so far. Email me for any reason, beamchronicles@gmail.com. I have money for art, if you want to make me some art. Social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. No idea what I'm doing, but that's okay. If you have not done so already, a 5-star rating on whatever platform you are using to listen to this would be downright swell. If you already did, thank you. All music and sound effects were sourced from the Epidemic Sound Library. Special thanks to Sergio Duarte for creating the cover art for this podcast, and thank you once again for listening.